person, I can't let no hoe to lie to me. I don't feel these rappers, all they lies is hypocrisy. Ain't no competition, ain't no rivalry. Niggas think I'm playing, I don't hear one word they saying. This shit light work. Think Muhammad one of us, he might lose his life first. Circle up and stay alert. Another cop just stretch the nigga. He a demon, this that exorcism. Watch I bless the nigga. You took that oath in blood, then you know I'm gon' get active with you. Fuck the opposition, I see vision. Let me paint the picture. Rappers claim they spit and I ain't listening. Is in fact the If revenge was a woman, now I stroke that bitch like Jack the Ripper. So war, we gon' run the summer. It's gon' be historical. Thought they making plays, made them niggas call the audible. Ask who run this shit, but that question is rhetorical. Bitch, I'm the one, me cookies with the oil. I'ma get them crackers, hell, should've never kidnapped my family. I can't do that, bet I be the last nigga standing. Do a life sentence for my niggas, pray you understand me. I might put a switch on this Glock and call it young baby. How you real triggering on them dots? You a bird feeder, claiming he a demon. What's a demon to a cold leader? When he saying something, I ain't hear him. This shit like it ain't about who got the gun, it's about who gon' up that pipe first. I turn a bad situation to a game changer. Bring soldiers from the dead, just raised up the chain. Free shots, I'ma look like Aaron Jones when I run it. Never bite the hand and feed you, you'll never get that hand back. He bitchin' about 10%, I don't wanna hear none of that. He dropping sword, fuck him, just make sure you get that cover back. Look around, he ain't with us, probably cause he never was. Now my chin like you with the angels for your brothers. Everybody wanna be Richard Porter, God kill him like Alpo. Play if he want, it's laying in the trunk like Lee Malvo. I'm a certified woman's ass nigga, I am not a toy. Hey, I with that hollow sign, yeah, this the real McCoy. Feel like Gullah Jack when I'm in Fayetteville, you feel your boy. Still up on my brain, still I think that's all that I do. The way I get that boy lost, they gon' start to call him Elroy. Fuck his game, pop out on them demons like I'm Hellboy.
All right, we up. All right, let's clap it up. Yeah, but Shema Shabraka Thumb, yeah, Shema talking about Shema Yal Shai to the sisters. Make sure the audio is Tawab too. I hope it's Tawab. Should be Tawab. All right, tonight, Salakia. Tonight we're gonna do go into Roe v. Wade some more, if I could, and also R. Kelly, right? Kells get 30 years in jail on this initial charge. I think he had more charges to face in Chicago, but I think today they gave him 30. They get 30 years in prison, and it's people could say what they want. Now there's you're gonna always have with Israel the two sides of it, right? On the two sides is this: they don't do the same thing to Israelites what they do to the oppressor, right? They don't do the same thing. Like they killed Freddie Gray, they killed Jaquan McDonald, they killed give me some more of them: Eric Garner, Michael Brown, Philando Castile. But they bring in Dylan Storm Roof. They bring in Peyton Gendron. You get the point? So the one side of it is always, we don't have a problem if you're locking criminals up, but how come when it comes to your people, you don't lock them up? You find some way to let them go or give them a lighter sentence or stretch the case out. You get the point? Like the devil who shot is Reagan or Nixon? The one that just released last week. No, it's Kennedy. It's one of them Kennedy men, right? Hold on. I think this is the one who shot him, but he didn't die. It's Reagan. Reagan got shot, right? They just released him after how much ever years, but the little boy who was in the trunk with the sniper, Johnny Malvo, they're asking for him to be up for, some consider parole, let him go. He was a juvenile. You gonna make him spend the rest of his life in jail for that? You know, this nigga, he tried to kill the president,
Right.
but you let him go. You get the point? So that's going to be one aspect of how 12 tribes of Israel is going as a people. How we going to take it? This is not the UPK stance, of course, but this is we understand what the mind of our people, because of course we in oppression with our people. You get the point? That's how people are going to look at it. Like, man, it's effed up what it did to Kells, this, that, the other. Because why? Weinstein locked up? I don't think he is locked up. I think he's out. I tried to find out, and it's kind of not clear. But the broad she just get 20 years, right? Epstein mysteriously committed suicide in prison, right? Ellen DeGeneres still she ain't have a show no more. She's, it stopped. Nothing happened to Oprah. All the people whose names was calling in the whole, child gate, red boot wearing, not red boot, red soul wearing, clique, who was supposedly in this, huge celebrity sex ring. You don't hear much about them anymore. You get the point? You don't hear much about them anymore. Them two news anchors, the one from NBC and the other one from ABC. No, from Fox. The old man, who was it, O'Reilly? One of them from Fox was also, his name was calling with sexual misconduct on the job. It was O'Reilly, right? And then the other guy from NBC, who was on the morning show with Gail or CBS, whichever one it is, Gail, and the other one, the Ethiopian one, he had to leave office. Then Como recently get charged with something. But yeah, we ain't really hearing them getting dragged through like Bill Cosby, which is how, as black people, we look at it. It's like, mama, why you beating me? Look what he doing. That's how we're going to look at it. And it's right to look at it like that, but it's also right as a people that we should hold ourselves to a much higher standard than having the R. Kellys, the Bill Cosbys in our community. Their contribution can't really be, it can't outweigh the lives that they help to destroy. You know what I mean? And people would say, Bill Cosby is America's, favorite TV dad. But that Raven Simone sat on his lap for a good bit of years for her formative life. And you see what's going on with her now. I ain't saying he did anything to her, but I'm just, it's in the circle. You get the point? R. Kelly done destroy a whole ton of these young girls. Their parents done made deals and send them girls to him because he was doing it, where we kind of condone the nonsense that goes on in our society to a point. You know what I mean? To a point. And once again, this is not letting the devil off, but it's justice for a child who's been violated and knows they've been violated, right? And that's the real treasure with something like this here. Like, a child has to receive some sort of judgment. A child is one of the most helpless people on the earth. Right. A child and a baby, they're very helpless. They don't understand things too much. They can't read a room. They can't figure things out by and large. Now, you have children that are 8 and 9, but they operate like 15-year-olds because of the life they live so far. So they damn near had to wisen up quick or get hurt. You get the point? But for the most part, 30 years for R. Kelly, that's what happens. You get the point? That's what happens. And, him going to jail is not going to stop child molestation in the industry, because the whole industry is based on sex. Come on.
This is he got 30 years even after the parents of one of the victims that was on the tape said that it wasn't their daughter. So even though the parents was paid off and was on his side,
quote unquote
concert, allegedly, and he still got 30.
Yeah, he gonna get that time. He gonna have to eat that time, man. Like, that time ain't going nowhere, because once again, the Lord is just. You know what I mean? That time ain't going nowhere. But there's gonna come a time when the oppressor is definitely going to be judged. But the Lord said, I'll start at my sanctuary first. You get the point? The Lord, he's gonna clean his house first. He gonna look within first before he start to handle this oppressor. You understand? So, I know a lot of people in their minds, they're sorry for R. Kelly. It's messed up. It's this, is that. But if you've ever been violated by your uncle, now you could put yourself in the shoes of the people R. Kelly violated, and just imagine your uncle or your father or auntie, in some cases for brothers, where this person now rises to stardom and fame and is loved by everybody, but this person done violated you horribly. Like, that's not something easy to live with. That's not something that, you know, is going to produce a healthy mind or a normal mental process in terms of your thoughts. You know, stuff like that, trauma like that, you carry on and you pass it to your children that you make after, and it just turns into a whole rotten, you know, disgusting, degraded cycle that just keeps going on and perpetuating. Because now the lack of justice, what does the lack of justice do to somebody? What does the lack of justice do? Pagaiba?
It causes them to resent the system and the person that offended them.
Resent the system and the person that offended them. That's true. Anything else? Go ahead.
Resent authority figures who's supposed to look after them.
Resent authority figures. I think that's what he's saying with the system. Resent the system and the person who did it, because that person who did it usually somebody old or authority figure, right? Anything else? Sis, come on.
Lead them to taking drugs.
Lead them to taking drugs and abuse of substances. There's something else, and even all those things are symptoms of this thing, but it's something else. Go ahead.
They feel weak because they were offended in the first place.
They feel weak.
So they want to regain their strength by committing the same offense.
Some people. Yeah.
They would want to regain their strength by offending somebody else. So they'll make somebody else feel small so they can feel big and whole again.
Or in other words, they'll violate somebody else so that they could feel, you know, like they're safe. Or nobody's gonna violate me, so they get violent. Or it was the other side of that, is you feel like you're worth nothing. And you let everybody violate you after that. Which is where you get your strippers from, the prostitutes, the night walkers, the OnlyFans, which is where you get that whole cast from BET on Sunday. You also, I didn't see the BET, but I saw the pictures of what they were wearing, and it was an absolute naked show. It was a full out naked show, like where you could see we really are the slaves of this empire. Like one broad was up there dressed like she was on the auction block, breast out, belly out, everything, with a loincloth. And she's supposed to be, a big time artist, but it was a whole naked show from experienced celebrities to new celebrities. It was an entire naked show. And when you check it out, these is people who they got violated. And no amount of money, no amount of fame, you can't, it's not going to change that. It's not going to heal it. You know what I mean? It's just going to be, you're going to carry yourself like you're worth nothing. Right? And that's a very dangerous way to be, where you carry yourself like you're worth nothing. And that's something, it would lead to low self-esteem, suicidal thoughts, something that plagues the 12 tribes of Israel, because we've been traumatized and violated by our oppressor. You get the point? We already been there, so we carry it in that manner. You get the point? So we're gonna cover some of it. Give me hold up. Give me Job 8:3. Somebody get it really quick for me.
This is Job chapter 8 and verse 3.
Mm-hmm.
Does God pervert judgment, or doth the Almighty pervert justice?
Right? No, it's two questions. Read it one more time again.
Does God pervert judgment, or doth the Almighty pervert justice?
Right? Does the Lord pervert judgment, or does the Almighty pervert justice? No, he does not. No, he does not. What he decides is what should happen. You get the point? Now, our oppressor, on the other hand, he perverts justice. He perverts judgment. You understand? He come up with his constitution, which in itself is a perversion. You understand? They try to say in God we trust, but they don't trust in the Lord at all. Their constitution, damn near it. You measure it, it kind of comes up against the Bible. Not kind of, it definitely does. You understand? And from his constitution is where you have the loopholes for the amendments and the changes, and you could debate this in court. There was never in the history of Israel that you can see doctors and scholars and lawyers and whoever else and prophets debating the legitimacy of a verse in the Bible, whether we should change it or do away with it or make sure it's expired. You get the point? With America, you could do that, and that's how you have Roe versus Wade, right? So we're gonna start off with that. If any questions in the chat?
No questions.
No sweat. If you have questions, you'll just type them in. All right. So now let's start off with Roe versus Wade, right? So Roe versus Wade, tell me about it. Who knows? Who could break it down? Simplest form. Come on.
It was this woman who wanted an abortion.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't able to get an abortion legally at first, so she fought it in court.
Okay.
The court went to the trial went to Supreme Court. She won the case. Come to find out, she never had an abortion.
Right. Okay. So then what we have from that?
We have that she's a liar.
Well, that's true. That's true. She is the devil. She is the oppressor. She's the oppressor's daughter. Anybody else? Anybody else want to try it?
So just add a little on to that.
Please.
She wanted to have an abortion. She couldn't. She went took it to court. Went all the way to the Supreme Court. They ruled in her favor that abortion should be the right of the woman or the choice of the woman.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the whole Roe v. Wade is. The Roe v. Wade case upholds the right or the choice of a woman to whether she wants to keep the child or she wants to murder the child.
Right. That's in essence what both of you are saying is correct. That the Roe v. Wade ruling of 1973, what it really does is it takes away the state's say. It takes away the state's say and kind of enforces, I think it's the 14th Amendment, the right to privacy. Right? What they say is every citizen has a right to privacy, meaning the government, there's certain things they can't tell you what you can and cannot do. Like in certain countries there's let's say for UK, right? UK, you ever wonder why the cars are so small? You ever seen UK cars? You never really looked at it. Everybody has relatively small cars, like a regular 4-door SUV. Like a car like what you drive is considered a big SUV in UK. That's a big car. There's a reason for that. In UK, they tax you on the size of your car. You understand? This is based on old archaic laws. They tax you on the size of your car. They claim it's for emissions and bullshit like that. But this is just another way to make the monarchy rich. There's something called a TV tax in the UK till today. They knock on your door, here, TV tax, here, give me my money. But it's not enforced, meaning you're not going to get thrown in jail for it, but there's people who do pay it. Meaning if you have a TV in your house, you have to pay tax to the king. You get the point? It's called a TV. You can look it up. There's a whole ton of ridiculous nonsense, brother, that's just, Now, some of it is enforced. A lot of it is not even enforced, but they'll still collect for who will pay. But majority of people will drive smaller cars because it's less tax. So I don't see them huge as like a Suburban or something over there, because who the hell want to pay all that tax? You get the point? Come on.
Like, if I could, in like Japan, specifically in Japan,
Mm-hmm.
they heavily tax foreign cars, so that you buy their cars.
Buy local cars.
So
Well, no, that taxation is different. That type of taxation is to stimulate the economy. It's forcing you to support homegrown, right? Homegrown stuff, homegrown technology, entrepreneurs, instead of sending the money outside.
Right.
That's really kind of, how it should be. Like if we're going to have to buy from you, you had to make that harder to get. So the consumer wants to spend money with you and with you and with you. And the money circulates over time, the economy will get strong. You get the point? That tax in Britain is different. That tax is more of a dictatorship tax. I'm going to tell you what you can have in your house. And from that, remember, America was taxation without representation is tyranny. So of course, there's so many laws or the constitutional notes and clauses and amendments that was based on giving you so much freedom, which is why even in the beginning with John Adams, when they brought the 13 colonies together, it was difficult to bring them together. Why?
Because they wanted their own sovereignty.
Nobody wanted to be under one king no more or one person, because we just fought, you get the point? We just break away and come and set up. Nobody wanted to have that unity. Even till today, certain states have freedom of creating state laws versus federal laws. You get the point? You have federal laws, and then you have state laws where, you on one side of the street, the law is different than the other side of the street just because of who run the governor of that state or whoever runs the state. You get the point? But it's all designed to give you a little bit more of freedom, right? A little bit more freedom, room to do whatever the hell you want. And of course, that 14th Amendment is in that same spirit of the right to privacy, meaning as long as you're not breaking the established laws that keep fabric together, the fabric of society together, meaning you're not in there murdering somebody, you're not in there, kidnapping and raping somebody, you're not doing things that destroy society. You pretty much could do whatever the hell you want. You could paint your house whatever color to a point. You have homeowners associations now will tell you no. You could buy whatever kind of car you want, how big, how small, whatever. You get the point? There's a certain amount of freedom that you have, and it comes from, it stems off of that, that's the spirit of that with the 14th Amendment. You understand? So now with the 14th Amendment, it was a challenge because now you're violating my right to privacy. What goes on, and this is not what goes on in my home, but in the body. So now they came up against that. Now, Roe v. Wade didn't just start. In fact, I think her case started in 1969, to be honest. It took a while to get through to the Supreme Court. And by the time it got through in 73, she already had the child. That was her third child, right? She had 2 children already before she gave that child up for adoption. Guess what she did with the other 2?
She kept
gave them up for adoption. This bitch is, brother, why just didn't just get a child up for adoption? What the hell is the problem? Right? That third child, we're gonna see her later on in the class, never met the mother. Right? Only found out she was the Roe v. Wade child when she was 18. I never met the mother. The mother tried to talk to her, and she said, you didn't, you don't need to talk to me. You'll see it in the tape. She's like, you don't deserve to talk to me. What I'm gonna talk to you for? You wanted to fighting for the right to kill my ass. I'll go see you now. I ain't going. Right? Now, this Roe v. Wade has precedent in a 1929 case. What is it called? Hold on. I thought I wrote it down. It's look up Bell. Hold on. Bell versus, it was a case for sterilizing women. It was that case for sterilizing women who were deemed unfit, imbecile. You'll see that word in there. Buck versus Bell. I think, wait, hold on. Is it that? Read it, let me hear.
Is a case decided in 1927. So Buck v. Bell is a decision of the United States Supreme Court written by Justice Oliver Holmes Jr., in which the court ruled that a state statute permitting compulsory sterilization of the unfit, including the intellectually disabled, for the protection and health of the state, did not violate the due process clause.
For the protection and health of who?
Of the state.
Of the state. Not the woman or the child, but of the state. Meaning this. The oppressor, for him, is like, okay, if he deems you unfit or imbecile is somebody who they say simple or slow, you unfit, and you have this child that's also unfit, and we allow you all to breed, you'll make us look bad. So for the health of the whole state, and we need to sterilize you to make sure you don't multiply. Right? That's their thought pattern. That's the oppressor. Go ahead. You was gonna say something?
I was gonna say that's exactly what one of the reasons why what Hitler had done with the sterilization before he wanted to kill everybody.
Because exactly, right? They're not that different from each other, even though they like to pretend they are. Right? Go ahead.
For the protection of the health and of the state, did not violate due process of the 14th Amendment to the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Despite the changing attitude.
It said it did not violate the due process, right? So it's saying like this thing here, this decision, they can't say it's violating the 14th Amendment, which is your right to privacy, because this is for the well-being of the state. This has nothing to do with your house. This is like the speed limit is 60 so that everybody in the state don't crash on the highway. You understand? We doing this for the state. This is not you. You understand? It's less personal. You get the point? Go ahead.
Okay. Despite the changing attitudes in the coming decades regarding sterilization, the Supreme Court was expressly overturned. The Supreme Court has never expressly overturned Buck versus Bell.
Mm-hmm. Right. So now in the ensuing decades, they started having fights. They not fights, but pushback against the ruling, right, of Buck versus Bell. For obvious reasons, because it's going to start with just like what's her name, Roe. It's going to start like Jane Roe, with this one person who they tell you fits the description and has every ingredient present at the same time for us to argue this case. It's going to start with somebody who is might be a little slow, might have got hit in the head not too well, and having a child, and they say we need to stop more like these from happening. So it will start with something like that, but 10, 15, 20 years later, guess what else will happen? You're poor, which means you can't really have this baby. Your people is too poor. You might be well, but the mother might not be great. So because they think it's hereditary, whatever quote unquote slowness, now they want to sterilize you too. You get the point? So now it starts to go all over the place, where this is not about no health with no state. And even now today, there's no proof that somebody who may have an affliction, a mental affliction or developmental affliction will necessarily pass it to the child. Is not a guarantee. You get the point? So as time go on, they start getting resistance for it. Resistance for it. Keep going.
Kind. It was widely believed to have been slightly weakened by Skinner versus Oklahoma, which involved compulsory sterilization.
Did they say what year that was?
1942, sir.
Right. So we're talking about almost close to 20 years later, like 15 years later or something. 15 years later, you have a challenge with it coming out of Oklahoma. Go ahead.
Which involved compulsory sterilization of male habitual criminals and came to a contrary result. Right.
So now you have this case in Oklahoma because the sterilization makes its way into the prison. See where it went in 15 years. It starts off with, you ain't fit to have this child. We need to make sure more people who are like you don't have children to the prison. If he's fit enough to commit the crime and fit enough to face sentencing, or maybe you don't want more criminals being born. I don't know what the logic was, but what the hell does the inmates got to get sterilized for? Ain't a woman in there anyway. It's not like they could breed somebody. Who they gonna breed? The CEO? Tell them about the gun line. They can't breed nobody in there. So why you have to sterilize them? You get the point? Come on, keep reading.
The Americans with Disability Act of 1990 has also made guaranteed protections from the federal government to people with disabilities, including the intellectually disabled.
This is 990 or 1919?
19990.
Okay. Give me some more with Oklahoma with that. Speed me up to when I think this was overturned. If it wasn't overturned, I think the Oklahoma one made a big change in Buck versus Bell. And it ended somewhere like in 65 or 67. I'm gonna have to find. Let me see. Buck versus Bell, right?
Come on. I see some aftermath here, and it has a couple different statutes.
Let me hear you.
Come on. The only types of sterilization which the ruling immediately ended were punitive sterilization. It did not directly comment on compulsory sterilization of the mentally disabled or mentally ill, and was not a strict overturning of the court's ruling in Buck v. Bell,
Right.
in 1927.
It was not a strict overturning, but it did push back on it, right? And this was in when? This was the one in 1942, right?
Well, they were talking about the
Skinner, Oklahoma.
The Skinner versus Oklahoma.
Right. So
affect the
1927 one. So Skinner, Oklahoma started affecting it where they couldn't just continue sterilizing everybody. Right? Skip me up to, hold on. Let me tell you what. Let me see what I find. Okay, I probably lost the part with it. Right? See if you find anywhere where Buck versus Bell precedes Roe v. Wade. Hold on, it's right in here. You see effect of the ruling?
Is that in the aftermath or the background, sir?
It's before. Let me tell you where it is. After background, after case, you have effect of the ruling. You have it? Give me the third paragraph down in effect of the ruling, which says sterilization rates.
Sterilization rates under eugenic laws in the United States climbed from 1927 until Skinner v. Oklahoma.
Right? So the rates of sterilization climbed, meaning it increased dramatically because, of course, this was a way to kill and oppress the minority group, really. Of course, you're going to hire poor whites in that, and Black, Hispanic, and Native people who would probably still state property or still have certain, under the oppressor in terms of, being not indentured. What's the word? With the sharecropping contracts. You get the point? If you still damn near a slave with the sharecropping, even though that was the time where you had Tulsa, Oklahoma, Rosewood, you had different areas that were thriving and Black, you still under that state laws. And for the people who still working as sharecroppers, you damn near still a slave. So imagine you have a child and the slave master deemed that your wife is an imbecile. We had to sterilize her. You get the point? Your wife has a child, but the slave master say you're a woman or you are imbecile, so we're going to sterilize your daughter to make sure there's no more of you. And that started increasing from 1927 to 42 with Oklahoma. Keep reading.
While Skinner v. Oklahoma did not specifically overturn Buck v. Bell, it created enough of a legal quandary to discourage many sterilizations. By 1963, sterilization laws were almost wholly out of use, though some remained officially on the books for many years. Language referring to eugenics was removed from Virginia's sterilization law, and the current law, passed in 1988 and amended in 2013.
You understand? So by 1963, that mass use of sterilization process and as law wasn't really in effect no more. And it was removed from the books in most states. So up from 1927, before 1927, you still had that 50-year gap from being quote-unquote emancipated from slavery. 1927 come through, they passed the Sterilization Act where they could do it legally. Meaning, at one time they was doing it illegally, but now they had to go and let the state recognize or the government recognize their right to do it. From 1927 to 42, they was doing it, and it increased. Oklahoma case set a precedent where it didn't overturn it, but it slowed it down enough because it wasn't right, it wasn't constitutional, blah, 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 blah. And by 1963, it faded out. Then comes the hoe, Jane Roe. Look up her real name again. right? Jane Roe, because that's the female version of like John Doe, like how the police we have this John Doe. This is Jane Roe because in the beginning she was anonymous, right? She was anonymous, and they was putting forth her case as she was gang raped in Georgia, right? Come on.
Norma McCorvey.
Norma McCorvey, right? That's her real name. So now you have from 1963, where those laws get, pretty much, forgotten and wiped off the books. 4 years later, for 6 years later, you have this mascot for abortion, for the right to abort the baby. Now, when the state would before tell you this child ain't fit to live, or you ain't fit to make children, now that they can't tell you that no more, they had to look for something else to come up to say you need to kill the child. So before, the state would do it for the health of the state from Buck versus Bell. Now they get you to do it yourself. You get the point? And they get the oppressor's daughter to do it because she's the best crier in the world. You want a woman who could just cry and make everybody's heart melt. You go get Sally, brother. Sally gonna come in there and just cry for you. And, she with enough tears, she could swing the case. You get the point? So she came in there, and this woman, who for now, she going to be Jane Roe, because they don't want nobody know who the hell she is, so they could put forward whatever, case they want and build up the case. And she needs to have the right to abort this baby because she was raped, gang raped at that, and she's pregnant. They didn't say this was her third child. They didn't say she already gave up the other two for adoption. But this was the horse we riding into the victory. And they got victory 4 years later, but she never got to abort the baby because, of course, it was in the courts. You get the point? Come on. What was going to say?
So it's like there's a question online. It's around this subject. It says, Matthew Brandon says, "Slocky, sir, can I get a precept showing that?" And there's a question that a vasectomy is wrong.
No, because I'll give you a precept. All right. Give me Romans 4:15. Romans 4:15. All right.
Come. Romans chapter 4, verse 15. Because the law worketh wrath. For where no law is.
Hold on. The law worketh wrath. Right? What does that mean? The law worketh wrath. Come on.
Does that mean that men because of the law, they'll look to kill the person, or
the law worketh wrath. The law works wrath. How does the law work?
Okay, so because you sin, it's like, oh, he has to die, or she has to die.
Little different.
Okay.
You're looking at it from the perspective of somebody else. The law, who is the law?
The police or the
That's the law.
Okay, come on.
The law worketh wrath. How does the law work? If you break it, they come and lock your ass up. You understand? You resist, they beat you down. That's how the law works. You steal, they put you in jail. The law worketh wrath. Right? Read on.
Okay. For where no law is, there is no transgression.
But where there's no law, there's no transgression. So the first part is talking the law, the workings of the law. If man lay down with man, both of them must be put to death. This is his instruction. When he pulled you over, he had to check your speed because he has state laws, state mandates. You get the point? So that's his instruction he's reading. But where there's no law for him to read, there's no transgression. It's just think like somebody get pulled over and the either might say, "Officer, why are you stopping me? Did I break the law?" Well, you was doing so, but is that against the law? And they get into a whole tussle over the law because where there's no law, there's no transgression. So now for the brother's question, he asks, for a precept showing that vasectomies are wrong, that's your precept. Where there's no law, there's no transgression. There's no law on a vasectomy, brother. There's no law on that. If anybody know it, please pull it and tell me. But there's no law saying if you decide to let somebody cut open, the vasectomy is for the men, right? If you decide to let somebody cut open your stones, according to how the Bible described that area, to cut your stones open and cut the tubes and clip the tubes so you don't have no more children, there's no law in there saying that you should be put to death and the person should be put to death for that, or you should pay 50 shekels or sacrifice 2 turtle doves. There's no law against it. You get the point? So I can't give you a precept to say it's wrong. There's no law against it. You understand? That's what you want to think. Is it a law against it? You can't charge somebody with being wrong, because which justice you're using, yours or the Lord's? Go ahead.
So I've heard some stupid people say that like surgery is unlawful because you're cutting into the flesh. How I know that's stupid. But
Okay, well, where's the law? Once again, where's the law about cutting into the flesh?
It will say it's Leviticus. It says, "Thou shalt not make no cuttings into the flesh."
Well, you got to pull it. Let's pull it. Let's pull it and see what they're talking about. Right? If cuttings into the flesh was unlawful, how could we go to war? How could we fight each other with swords and arrows and knives? If that was unlawful, how could you eat a goat? You get the point? How could you even do it? I don't understand what they're talking about, but we could pull the law and see. Right? You found it?
It's Leviticus chapter 19 and verse 28.
Okay.
Leviticus 19 and 28. Ye shall not make any cuttings into your flesh for the dead, or print any marks upon you.
Hold on. You shall make, say that again?
Ye shall not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead.
For what?
For the dead.
Is surgery for the dead?
No.
All right, then. What are we talking about? Cuttings in your flesh for the dead is not, you need a kidney. You will be dead if you need a kidney, but, that's not what it's talking about. You get the point? Okay. Just prove all things. Remember that First Thessalonians 5:21. Make them prove it out. Don't let them just say it's against the law to do this or it's a sin to do that. It's true. Really? Where does it say that? Show it to me, because I've never seen it. And let them show you the cuttings in the flesh or whatever other thing they're making up. A lot of that nonsense is made up. Come on. Did the brother understand, Matthew?
He understood.
Right. So it's not a sin to get one. If you might have to get one for different reasons, medical reasons. You want to talk to your doctor about it and you want to get counsel on it. Now, if you're going to get one because, I don't know why a nigga would let somebody cut his rod open. So like, for what? A knife down there? Who the fuck doing that dumb shit? So like, go ahead.
Yeah, I said it's only a few men, but they do it so they can stop having kids.
Right? Maybe he had enough kids, right? Maybe he an old baby making machine. He's like, man, I still need to have sex, but I ain't trying to raise no more kids. He go do it. That's a decision. That's like a personal decision. He ain't wrong for doing it. You know what I mean? He ain't wrong if he want to do it. That's probably it, right? That's probably the only. He ain't want no more. Okay, now if he's doing it because he don't want none at all, that's still a personal decision. Like he don't have none. He young, but he don't want none. He want to make sure that he just want to, have sex with his woman or woman. That's fine, but he should still get counsel because, of course, his ribs might want some children. They might, might get that baby fever, which all women get. And what you going to do? What you going to tell her at that point? You're going to get some counsel before you make a step like that. But there's no law against you doing it. You know what I mean? There's no law against you doing it. That's like a personal decision. That's like saying, I can't buy a car and switch the engine out. That's just your decision. You understand? Come on.
So there's another brother, Jeremy, says, isn't this is this scripture, Deuteronomy 23:1, a wounded of vasectomy? Here is Deuteronomy chapter 23 and verse 1. He that is wounded in the stones, or hath his privy member cut off, shall he not enter into the congregation of the Lord.
No, it's not a vasectomy. What happens? You could be wounded in the stones through war. You know what I mean? You get a spear through your loins. You could have a fall, damage yourself, and your stones is wounded, meaning you can't make no more children, or your rod is cut off in war or some other accident that possibly happened, and that that's the situation. You get the point? But that's not a vasectomy. Don't think that is like a vasectomy or spiritually. Don't think like that, because this man didn't willingly go in there and stop himself. He ain't willingly, lift his garment up and say, "All right, boys, this is it. This is the last one," and sat down on a big rock and hurt himself. He didn't do that. He didn't even do that. In fact, okay, it's to purposely do it to somebody against their will is punishable in the Bible, because you know what I'm talking about? When the woman comes in and does it. You right? See if you could pull that for me. There's a precept to protect somebody from harming a man in his stones. You can't just do that to him. Men know not to do it to each other. You understand? Very, very few times you would see in a fight a man hit a man in the stones. Very few. I mean, that might be a last resort. But a man don't first off fake you on top and hit you, uppercut in your stones. Men don't do that, because that's just kind of like, how it's bro code, I guess. I don't know. It's just we just know not to do each other that thing. But now, once again, this could be proof and all if you want to break it down one day like that we the 12 tribes of Israel, you might be in a fight with a man. 2 Israelites fighting, your ribbon standing there and watching that shit. She could be 4'5" and 95 pounds. She jumping in the nigga neck. She doing whatever she had to do. But because she's a woman and much weaker, she's going to do what she knows is going to hurt him. You get the point? And this is what we're about to read. You find it yet?
Should be Deuteronomy 25:11.
All right, go ahead. Since you have it already, just go ahead. Right? She might see you. You might be struggling in the fight. You might be like, that nigga with the helmet again, worked on. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Deuteronomy chapter 25, verse 11. When men strive together, one with another, and the wife of the one draweth near to deliver her husband out of the hand of him that smiteth him. Right?
So 2 men striving together, and then one of them, the rib, she getting closer. She watching. She trying to edge in the fight. They all breaking up all the tables in the little tavern or whatever. And she edging closer. She want to deliver her husband from the other brother. Read on.
And put forth her hand and taketh him by the secrets.
Right? And she put forth her hand and take him by the secrets, like, F-R-E-E. And she got you now. Yeah, nigga. Get down. Come on. Yeah, bag now. Go ahead.
Then thou shalt cut off her hand. Thine eyes shall not pity her.
Right? No, if some woman does that, she gets in the middle of the fight and she grab you by the secrets, brother, and harm you, the law says both her hands have to be removed. And the Lord went on to say, don't pity her. Why? Because when sister started crying, brothers will be like, oh, she cried. All right, sis, we're going to get y'all pass. Do not pity her. Come on, stretch them hands out like you stretch for that nigga's nuts. Go ahead.
It's a hand, so it might be the hand that grabs it.
For the future of Israel, we're going to take the other one too. Right? Like you can't, because why? Because the Lord knows men might fight. They might fight, and notice there ain't no law against the fight.
Right.
You get the point? It's, brother, they might get away. Young brothers, they might get away. You had to break them up. And that's not something is that you got to go to jail for. It could happen. In other words, sis, if you're going in there to fight, don't inhibit this man's ability to have children in the future just because he whoop your husband ass. You know, go get some supplements for your husband and get him strong. Teach him to fight next time, but don't go in there now and now do something where this brother, he can't make no children no more because him and the brother had an issue. You know what I mean? That's evil to do a man. A man, he's going to want to leave his lineage. He's going to want to leave his seed on the earth. You can't go purposely and damage the thing in a situation like that. You get what I'm saying? So you know, for the brother question a little bit more. 1 second. Right, so for the brother's question, you know, that there's no law saying it's evil to get a vasectomy, or that's not our custom, really. That's, you know, that's not our custom to cut that off. You know what I mean? Come on.
In my battles with it this week, I had a sister come directly on one of my posts with that, and she asked me that direct question. You know what I'm saying, how about mandatory vasectomies, you know, till you ready to have children, are you down? So I put, how about mandatory, the Lord said if you have sex, that's marriage until death. You know what I mean? Are you down? You know,
well, listen, not even these sex being in marriage. Okay, because, you know, married woman, she's not married. You get the point? The one who's asking you that shit, she's not married. That's a hoe asking you that shit. So marriage ain't even the issue. The issue here is don't have sex. You get the point? Is you know, could be okay, because you're gonna have to explain sex as marriage to them, which could lead you somewhere else. So it's not even about that. It's just, if you go and have sex with somebody, this could happen. I don't have to get a mandatory vasectomy to stop you from being a murderer. You're just gonna find somebody else to kill. If you can't kill the baby, guess who you're gonna kill next? Me. You're gonna kill me in your sleep. You get the point? And in my sleep, you're gonna pour hot grits on me. You're gonna run me over with a goddamn car. You're gonna, you know, stab me. You're gonna get some new nigga to come in there and, you know, shoot the dude like trouble. You're gonna kill me if you can't kill the child. So it's not a matter of stopping me from, you know, impregnating you. Why don't you just stop sinning? Good.
You're so right on like how the battles we have this week is ridiculous. It's two battles. Well, one system with two different posts. One post, she said Nick Cannon, because you know Nick Cannon famous for having all kids now. She said Nick Cannon was problematic because he has 14 women and 35 babies. That's she
exaggerated
numbers.
Yeah, he had like 6 kids or something.
Right. What she said was he's problematic, but she said she said he's the problem. But y'all talking about Lori Harvey, and I was telling her you can't compare Nick Cannon to Lori Harvey, but like how you saying, let's bring it up against the law. Is it against the law? Now, some of the women he messed with is heathens, but let's leave that to the side.
Yeah, that ain't the issue here.
Is it unlawful for him having them kids and them women?
No, it's not.
For Lori to go to man
every time she feel it. You know what I mean? Yeah. In any religion, no matter what you believe, a hoe is a hoe. Right. I don't care who you follow, what religion you follow, what race you are. It's a universal